Isabella Drake stood in a Los Angeles courtroom and watched her billionaire husband get led away in handcuffs. He was screaming, threatening, begging. But Isabella didn't flinch, because 48 hours earlier, she'd been locked in a bedroom with no phone, no help, and a baby due in 3 weeks. Her husband's mistress had been planning her death, and the housekeeper had discovered something that would change everything. This is the story of how a woman with nothing took down a man who had everything. And it started with a single text message she wasn't supposed to send. Let me take you back to where it all began, 48 hours earlier. But before we continue, let me ask you something. Where in the world are you watching from? Comment below. We'd love to know how far these stories travel. And don't forget to like and subscribe. If stories about justice, revenge, and people who refuse to stay quiet matter to you, then you're in the right place. Now let's get into it. Isabella was 8.5 months pregnant when she realized the bedroom door was locked from the outside. She'd woken up that Tuesday morning to silence, the kind of silence that made her skin crawl. The Beverly Hills mansion was never quiet. There were always sounds. The housekeeper vacuuming downstairs, the gardeners outside, Dominic on conference calls in his office. But that morning, there was nothing of such. She pushed herself out of bed, one hand supporting her swollen belly, and walked to the door, turned the handle. But it didn't move. She tried again, harder this time. Yet nothing. The lock was on the outside. Someone had locked her in. Her phone. She needed her phone. Isabella turned to the nightstand where she always left it charging. But then, it was empty. She checked the dresser, the bathroom, under the bed. But she noticed that every device she owned had been removed while she slept. Her heart started racing. She pressed her ear to the door and heard voices, drifting up from downstairs. Dominic's deep voice. And then, another voice. Higher, confident. It sounded like that of Vivian. Vivian Cross had moved into the guest house 2 weeks ago. Dominic said it was temporary, that his business partner needed a place to stay while her apartment was being renovated. But Isabella knew better. She'd seen the way Vivian looked at Dominic, the way Dominic looked back, the way Vivian touched his arm during dinner, her fingers lingering just a second too long. Isabella had been married to Dominic Drake for 6 years. She knew what control looked like, what isolation felt like. But this was different. This was dangerous. She pressed her hands against her belly and felt her daughter kick. Strong, alive, fighting. She had to stay calm, had to think. There was a heating vent near the floor, the kind that carried sound from the rooms below. Isabella lowered herself carefully onto the carpet and pressed her ear to the metal grate. Vivian's voice came, through, although muffled but clear. The life insurance policy expires in 30 days. If something happens during childbirth, Dominic cut her off. Keep your voice down. I'm just saying, the timing works. She's due in 3 weeks. We have the doctor lined up. Everything is in place. I said keep your voice down. There were footsteps, a door closing, and then silence again. Isabella sat back, her mind racing. Life insurance policy. She didn't have life insurance. Did she? She'd signed so many papers over the years. Papers Dominic said were routine estate planning, tax documents, trust fund arrangements. She'd trusted him, signed everything he put in front of her, and now she realized she had no idea what she'd actually agreed to. The baby kicked again, harder this time, as if sensing her mother's fear. Isabella spent the next 3 hours trying to stay calm. She paced the room, counted her breathing, told herself there had to be an explanation. But every time she tried to convince herself she was overreacting, she remembered Vivian's words. The timing works. We have the doctor lined up. At noon, there was a soft knock on the door. A key turned in the lock. The door opened just wide enough for her maid, Maria Santos, to slip inside carrying a lunch tray. Maria was 45, with kind eyes and calloused hands. She'd worked for the Drake family for 9 years. She'd been there when Isabella and Dominic got married, when Isabella got pregnant, When things started to change, Maria set the tray on the bedside table and turned to leave, but Isabella grabbed her wrist. "Maria, please, what's happening? Why am I locked in here?" Maria's eyes darted to the door. She leaned close and whispered, "Mr. Drake said you need to rest, that the stress isn't good for the baby. He said no visitors, no phone, no distractions. Maria, I'm not sick. I'm pregnant. This isn't normal." Maria hesitated. Her hand went to her apron pocket, fingers touching something hidden there. She looked at the door again, then back at Isabella. When she spoke, her voice was barely audible. "There's something you need to see, but not now, tonight, when everyone's asleep. Don't make noise, don't turn on the lights, just wait for me." Before Isabella could respond, Maria was gone. The door locked behind her with a soft click. Isabella barely touched the food. She sat by the window and watched the sun move across the sky, watched shadows lengthen across the perfectly manicured lawn, watched Dominic and Vivian walk to the pool house, laughing about something she couldn't hear. The hours crawled by. Dinner came and went. The house turned out to be more quiet. Isabella waited until the clock read 11:30 before she heard the soft knock. 3 taps. A pause, and 2 more taps. The door opened. Maria slipped inside, a pen light in one hand and a folded paper in the other. She knelt beside Isabella's bed and unfolded the paper. It was a photocopy of a legal document. The header, "Read life insurance policy" in bold letters. Maria aimed the pen light at the page. Isabella's name was right there at the top. Policyholder, Isabella Catherine Drake. Benefit amount, $15 million. Beneficiary, Dominic Alexander Drake. And then Isabella saw the clause Maria had highlighted in yellow marker. Special provision. Double indemnity benefit payable in the event of death during childbirth or within 30 days postpartum. Total benefit in such case, $30 million. Isabella's hands started shaking. The paper trembled in her grip. $30 million if she died giving birth. $30 million. "There's more," Maria whispered. She pulled out her phone and showed Isabella a screenshot of text messages. The sender was listed as Vivian Cross. The recipient, Dr. Kenneth Lawson. The first message read, "Confirmed for 3 weeks from today. Home birth, minimal intervention as discussed." The response? Understood. Payment schedule agreed upon. $500,000, half up front, half upon completion. Another message from a Vivian. "And you're certain there will be complications." Dr. Lawson's response. "With the protocols I'll implement, complications are inevitable. Patient non-survival is highly probable. I've done this before." Isabella thought she might be sick. She pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting the nausea rising in her throat. They were planning to kill her. Dominic and Vivian had hired someone to make sure she died during childbirth. Hired someone to murder her so Dominic could collect $30 million. "Who is this doctor?" Isabella managed to ask. Maria's face was grim. "I looked him up. Kenneth Lawson. He used to be an OB/GYN in Nevada. His license was revoked 3 years ago after 3 of his patients died under his care. The medical board said it was gross negligence. He disappeared after that, and now he's here, getting paid to deliver your baby." Isabella felt the room spinning. Everything made sense now. Why Dominic had insisted on a home birth. Why he'd told her hospitals were dangerous. That medical intervention was unnecessary. Why Vivian had moved in just as Isabella entered her 3rd trimester. They'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. "What do I do?" Isabella whispered. "I have no phone, no way to contact anyone. They're watching me." Maria pulled something else from her pocket. It was a small flip phone. "I bought this yesterday, paid with my own money. It has limited minutes, but it's enough for 1 call, 1 person who can help you. Do you have someone?" Isabella's mind raced through possibilities. Her parents were dead, and most of her friends had moved away over the years, especially after she married Dominic. He'd made sure of that. isolated her bit by bit until her entire world revolved around him. But there was one person. One person she hadn't spoken to in 12 years. One person who'd walked away from her life because he couldn't stand to watch her marry Dominic Drake, her brother. Adrian. Adrian Drake had taken back their mother's maiden name after their father died. He'd begged Isabella not to marry Dominic, said there was something wrong with him, something dangerous. But Isabella had been 22 and in love and convinced she knew better. So Adrian had walked away, told her when she needed him, he'd come. But he wouldn't watch her suffer until then. "I need 10 minutes, Isabella said. "Can you create a distraction, something to keep them occupied?" Maria nodded. "The security cameras in this hallway loop every 8 minutes. I'll trigger the alarm on the south side of the house. Mr. Drake will have to go check it. You'll have a window." Maria left. Isabella waited but still held the phone in her hand, her heart beating against her ribs, times 3 more than usual. 5 minutes passed. Then she heard it, a loud beeping. Dominic's heavy footsteps in the hallway, his voice irritated. "What now?" But soon enough, she stopped hearing the footsteps. Isabella dialed the number she'd memorized years ago, praying it was still active. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a man's voice, cold and controlled. "Who is this?" "Adrian." Isabella's voice cracked. "It's me." There was absolute silence before he finally said, "Isabella, I need help. 847 Belmont Drive, Beverly Hills. I'm locked in, 8 months pregnant. They're planning to kill me. Life insurance, $30 million. They have a doctor, Kenneth Lawson. Home birth in 3 weeks. I need extraction." She could hear Adrian breathing on the other end, processing, calculating. "I'm in Dubai," he said finally. "I can be there in 14 hours. Keep this phone charged and hidden. I'm going to text you instructions. Follow them carefully." "And Isabella?" "Yeah? Don't let them know you know. Pretend everything is fine. Can you do that?" "I have to. I'm coming. 14 hours. Stay alive until then." The line went dead. Isabella deleted the call history and hid the phone inside a box of tampons in the bathroom cabinet, knowing fully well that no one would look there. When Maria returned, Isabella was back in bed, eyes closed, breathing steady. Maria locked the door. Isabella opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling, counting seconds, counting minutes, counting the hours until Adrian arrived. Because Adrian Drake wasn't just her estranged brother. He was the person Dominic had underestimated more than anyone. While Dominic had been building his tech empire, Adrian had been building something else, a network, legal experts, financial investigators, private security. He specialized in one thing, dismantling powerful men who hurt women. And he'd been waiting 12 years for his sister to ask for help. 14 hours. Isabella could survive 14 hours. The next morning, Dominic brought her breakfast himself. He set the tray down with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "How are you feeling?" "Tired," Isabella said. It wasn't a lie. She'd barely slept. "Why am I locked in here, Dominic?" She pretended to ask as if she doesn't have a hint of what was going on. "And so," he replied, "you're not locked in. I'm protecting you. The doctor said you need bed rest. Too much stress can trigger early labor." "What doctor? I haven't seen a doctor in weeks." "Dr. Lawson, he's monitoring your case remotely. He thinks a home birth is best. Hospitals are full of infections, medical errors. I'm not risking you or the baby." Isabella forced herself to nod, to look relieved. "Okay, if you think it's best." Dominic's expression softened slightly. He reached out and touched her cheek. "I'm taking care of you, Bella. I always take care of you." He left. The door locked behind him. Isabella waited until his footsteps faded before she checked the burner phone. There was a text from an unknown number. "It's Adrian. Don't respond to this message, just read. I've contacted Maria. She's working with me now. She'll document everything. Every conversation, every movement. Keep playing along. I have people digging into Dominic's finances. We're building a case. 13 hours until I land. Stay strong. Isabella deleted the message and hid the phone again. She spent the day pacing her room, thinking and trying to stay calm for the baby's sake. That afternoon, while Dominic was in a video conference, Maria brought Isabella lunch. She whispered as she set down the tray. "Your brother sent me a secure phone. I'm recording everything now. Audio, video, documents. Everything they do, everything they say. He told me what to look for." "What did he say?" "He said men like Dominic always make mistakes. They get arrogant and then end up being careless with some things. And when they do, we'll be ready." For the next 10 days, Isabella played her role perfectly. She smiled when Dominic visited, ate the meals Maria brought, pretended to be grateful for the bed rest, and the entire time, Maria was documenting, recording conversations through the air vents, photographing documents Dominic left in his office, uploading everything to a secure cloud server Adrian had set up. Isabella learned things she'd never known. Dominic's company was drowning in debt. He'd been cooking the books for 3 years, inflating revenue numbers to keep investors happy. He'd taken out loans using shell companies, hidden millions in offshore accounts. The life insurance money wasn't just about greed, it was about survival. Dominic needed that $30 million to keep his empire from collapsing. And Vivian wasn't just his mistress, she was his business partner. The shell companies were registered in her name. If everything fell apart, Dominic could claim ignorance and let Vivian take the fall. She just didn't know it yet. Isabella felt her daughter moving inside her, strong and determined. She pressed her hand to her belly and whispered, "We're going to be okay, I promise. Uncle Adrian is coming." On the 11th day, at 2 in the morning, Isabella woke up to cramping. Not painful, but consistent. Braxton Hicks contractions. Her body was practicing for labor. But as she lay there in the dark, the contractions started coming faster and stronger. She didn't really see this coming. This was early labor. She was 2 weeks ahead of schedule. Isabella grabbed the burner phone with shaking hands and texted Adrian. "Contractions, early labor. What do I do?" The response came within seconds. "How far apart?" 10 minutes. "Stay calm. I'm triggering the plan now. Police will be there within the hour. Paramedics will extract you. Maria knows what to do. You're getting out tonight. Trust me." Isabella wanted to cry, wanted to scream, wanted to curl up and give in to the fear. But she didn't. She got out of bed, got dressed, and waited. Downstairs, she heard Dominic's phone ring, heard his voice, groggy with sleep. "What? Who is this?" She couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she heard Dominic's response. "An audit? By who? How did you get this number?" There was silence, then an angry tone of voice. "That's impossible. I'm calling my lawyer." Isabella heard him pacing, making more calls, his voice rising with each one. Within 20 minutes, the house was already chaos. Dominic was shouting. Vivian was not having it either, as they both were demanding to know what was happening. And through it all, Isabella sat in her locked room, timing her contractions, waiting for the sirens. They came at 3:15 a.m., red and blue lights flashing through the windows, heavy pounding on the front door. Isabella heard an officer shout through the door. "LAPD, we received a call about a welfare check. Open the door!" Dominic's voice, panicked now. "This is private property. You need a warrant." "We have probable cause based on a credible report of a pregnant woman being held against her will. Open the door or we'll force entry." The door opened. Multiple sets of footsteps entered, and then another sound. A car pulling up the driveway, then slammed the door, and a voice Isabella hadn't heard in 12 years. "Officers, my name is Adrian Drake. My sister is 8.5 months pregnant and has been locked in this house for 2 weeks against her will. She's in active labor and requires immediate medical attention." Dominic's voice, trying to regain control. "Who the hell are you? This is my house. My wife is fine." "Is she? Then why is her bedroom door locked from the outside? Why was her phone confiscated? Why hasn't she been allowed to contact anyone?" "She's on bed rest, and that was on doctor's orders." "What doctor?" Because I have evidence that the person you hired to deliver her baby is Kenneth Lawson, a doctor whose medical license was permanently revoked after 3 of his patients died under his care. Would you like to explain why you hired him?" There was silence before the officer's voice intervened. "Mr. Drake, step aside. We're going upstairs." Isabella heard footsteps on the stairs, heard someone try her door and find it locked. "Ma'am, are you in there? This is LAPD. We're here to help." "I'm here," Isabella called out. "I'm in labor. Please, I need to get to a hospital." The door was forced open. 2 paramedics rushed in with a stretcher. Behind them, a police officer. And behind the officer, standing in the doorway, was Adrian. He was taller than she remembered. Broader, his dark hair was shorter now, graying at the temples, but his eyes were the same, sharp, calculating, and right now full of barely controlled rage. "Hello, Isabella," he said quietly. "You came." "Of course." The paramedics got her onto the stretcher. As they wheeled her toward the stairs, Isabella saw Dominic standing in the hallway, his face pale. Vivian was behind him, wrapped in a silk robe, her eyes wide with fear. Adrian walked past them without a word. But at the top of the stairs, he paused and turned back to Dominic. "You have 12 hours before the financial audit results go public. I'd suggest you call a lawyer. Actually, call several. You're going to need them." Dominic took a step forward. "You can't do this. I own this city. I know people." "You own this city," Adrian corrected. Past tense. "Because in about 6 hours, everyone you know is going to find out what you really are, and then you won't know anyone." They took Isabella to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Real doctors, real nurses, real medical equipment. Adrian stayed with her the entire time, making phone calls from the hallway, coordinating something she couldn't quite hear. The next day, news was already breaking. The first headline appeared at 6 a.m. Drake Technologies under SEC investigation for securities fraud. By 7 a.m., CEO Dominic Drake accused of falsifying $400 million in revenue. By 8 a.m., insider trading probe targets billionaire tech executive. Isabella was in a hospital bed, hooked up to monitors, when Adrian showed her the headlines on his phone. "How did you do this so fast?" she asked. "I didn't do it fast. I've been investigating Dominic for 12 years, since the day you married him. I knew he was dirty. I just needed the right moment to release everything." He leaned back in the chair beside her bed. "And when you called me 11 days ago, that was the moment." "You've been planning this for 12 years? I told you I'd be ready when you needed me." Isabella's labor progressed slowly. By late afternoon, she was fully dilated. By evening, she was pushing. And at 8:47 p.m., her daughter was born. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Perfect. Healthy. Isabella held her daughter and cried. Not from pain, from relief, from joy, from the overwhelming realization that they'd survived. Adrian stood at the window, looking out at the city. "What are you going to name her?" "Maya. It means water, life." "It's perfect." There was a knock at the door. Then a detective entered, badge clipped to his belt. "Ms. Drake, I'm Detective Morrison. I need to take your statement when you're ready, about Kenneth Lawson, about the life insurance policy, about everything that happened." "She'll give a statement tomorrow," Adrian said. "She just gave birth." "I understand, but you should know, we arrested Dr. Lawson 4 hours ago. He's being charged with conspiracy to commit murder, among other things. And we have Vivian Cross in custody. She's talking, a lot." Isabella looked up. "What did she say?" "Everything. The texts, the payments, the plan. She's claiming Dominic came up with the whole idea, that she thought it was just a financial arrangement. She didn't realize he was planning to actually kill you." The detective paused. "She's lying, of course. We have evidence she was fully complicit, but she's desperate, trying to save herself. Will it work? Depends on how good her lawyer is. But between her testimony and the evidence your brother provided, we have enough to arrest Dominic Drake tonight." That night, while Isabella slept with Maya in her arms, Dominic was at his mansion, sitting in the dark, drinking scotch straight from the bottle. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Hello, Dominic." Adrian's voice came over the phone, calm and controlled. "What do you want?" Dominic's words were slurred. He was drunk. "To tell you that my sister just gave birth to a beautiful, healthy baby girl. No thanks to you." "Congratulations. Now what?" "You've already destroyed my company, my reputation. What more do you want?" "I want you to understand something. Isabella trusted you. She loved you. She gave you 6 years of her life, and you repaid her by trying to kill her for insurance money. I didn't. Don't lie. Not to me. I have recordings, texts, financial records, testimony from Vivian, testimony from Dr. Lawson. I have everything, and in about 30 seconds, the FBI is going to knock on your door with a warrant for your arrest." Dominic stood up. "You can't prove—" "I don't have to prove anything. Vivian already did. She's cooperating fully in exchange for immunity. She gave them everything, the offshore accounts, the shell companies, the wire transfers to Lawson, all of it." Instantly, there was a heavy pounding on the door. "FBI, Dominic Drake, we have a warrant for your arrest." Adrian's voice was quiet now, almost gentle. "Goodbye, Dominic. I hope $30 million was worth it." The line went dead. Dominic opened the door. Federal agents rushed in. They read him his rights: conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, securities fraud, wire fraud, witness tampering. The cameras were already outside, news vans, reporters, flashing lights. They led Dominic out in handcuffs while the world watched. The man who had everything lost it all in 72 hours. 6 months later, the trial began. Isabella sat in the gallery, holding Maya, now 6 months old and smiling. Adrian sat beside her. The courtroom was packed, media everywhere. This was the trial of the decade. Billionaire tech CEO accused of plotting to murder his pregnant wife for insurance money. The prosecutor was a woman named Rachel Martinez. Sharp, relentless. She presented the evidence methodically. The life insurance policy with a double indemnity clause. The text messages between Vivian and Dr. Lawson. The payment records showing $500,000 wired to Lawson's account. The audio recordings Maria had captured through the air vents. Every piece of evidence was damning. Dominic's defense team tried to argue that Vivian had orchestrated everything, that Dominic was a victim of her manipulation, that he'd never intended harm. But then Isabella took the stand. The courtroom went silent as she walked to the witness box, moved with purpose, sat down, and looked directly at Dominic. The prosecutor approached. "Ms. Drake, did your husband ever discuss life insurance with you?" "No, I didn't know the policy existed until Maria showed me the documents." "And when you realized what your husband was planning, what did you do?" Isabella's voice was steady, clear. "I stayed quiet. I played along, because I knew if I confronted him, if he saw fear in my eyes, he might speed up the timeline. So I waited. I waited for the right moment. And I called the one person I knew could stop him." She looked at Adrian in the gallery. And he nodded. "No further questions," the prosecutor said. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. The judge looked at Dominic without sympathy. "Mr. Drake, you used your wealth and influence to isolate your wife, to manipulate her, and ultimately to plan her murder for financial gain. You hired a disgraced doctor to ensure she would die during childbirth. You conspired with your mistress to collect $30 million in insurance money. You have shown no remorse, no accountability. This court sentences you to 35 years in federal prison without possibility of parole for 15 years. The gavel struck. Dominic's face went blank. No emotion, just emptiness. The officers led him away. He didn't look back. Outside the courthouse, reporters were seen everywhere. "Miss Drake, how do you feel about the verdict?" Isabella held Maya close and spoke clearly. "Justice isn't always immediate. Sometimes it requires patience, strategy, evidence. I stayed silent when people expected me to fight back. I gathered proof when others would have confronted their abuser. And when the moment was right, I struck with everything I had. That's what I want other women to know. You don't have to be loud to be strong. You don't have to fight back immediately. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is stay quiet, document everything, and wait for the right moment. But then, all thanks to my brother Adrian, because without him this wouldn't have been possible for me. One reporter called out, "What about Vivian Cross? She got immunity." Legal immunity, yes, but immunity from prosecution doesn't protect you from consequences. Isabella smiled slightly. Vivian is learning that now. And she was. Vivian Cross had avoided prison, but she couldn't avoid the court of public opinion. Within days of her testimony, security camera footage from the Drake mansion leaked online. Footage of Vivian laughing as Isabella begged to see a doctor. Footage of Vivian and Dominic celebrating after signing the life insurance policy. The video went viral. 10 million views in 24 hours. Vivian lost control of the social media image she had carefully built. Brands dropped her sponsorships. Her influencer friends publicly distanced themselves. She couldn't go to restaurants without being recognized and confronted. Couldn't go to her gym without people staring. Couldn't live anywhere without angry neighbors demanding she leave. Her apartment building asked her to vacate. She had no income, no friends, no future. And then Isabella filed a civil lawsuit for emotional distress and conspiracy. Vivian's legal fees alone bankrupted her. She ended up in a small studio apartment in a bad neighborhood, alone, scrolling through thousands of hateful comments, realizing she'd destroyed her own life for a man who'd never loved her. 1 year after the trial, Isabella stood on a stage in downtown Los Angeles. 500 people filled the ballroom of the Four Seasons Hotel. The event was the launch of the Silent Voice Project, Isabella's new foundation dedicated to helping women trapped in abusive relationships. Maya was with a sitter tonight. This moment was about something bigger than one family. It was about every woman who'd been told to stay quiet, to accept less, to endure abuse in silence. Isabella stepped up to the microphone. Everyone listened while she spoke. 2 years ago, I was locked in a room, 8 months pregnant, with a husband planning my death for insurance money. I had no phone, no help, no way out. I stayed quiet, not because I was weak, but because I was waiting for the right moment, waiting for the right help. And when that moment came, I was ready. Applause rippled through the crowd. This foundation exists for every woman who's been told her voice doesn't matter, that she should accept abuse, that she has no power. We're here to say you do have power. Document everything, reach out quietly, build your case, and when the moment is right, fight back with everything you have. You don't have to be loud to be dangerous, you just have to be smart. The crowd stood. The applause was thunderous. Isabella looked out at the faces. Survivors, advocates, people who understood. After the gala, Isabella stood on the hotel balcony, looking out at the Los Angeles skyline. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Santos at Cedars-Sinai, where Isabella now volunteered on the maternity ward. Ms. Drake, wanted you to know we had a patient tonight who came in scared, bruised, 30 weeks pregnant. She said she saw your interview. She knew what to do. She documented everything. We got her to safety. She's going to be okay. Because of you. Isabella smiled and wiped her eyes. This was the victory that mattered. Not revenge, not watching Dominic rot in prison, but helping other women escape before it was too late. Her phone rang and it was Adrian. "How did it go?" he asked. "Perfect. We raised $2 million tonight. We can fund 3 more safe houses and hire 5 more lawyers." "Good. You're doing important work, Isabella. We're doing important work. I couldn't have done any of this without you. You would have found a way. You're stronger than you think." Isabella looked down at the city. Somewhere in a federal prison, Dominic Drake was staring at concrete walls, finally understanding what he'd lost. Not just his freedom, not just his money, but the one person who truly loved him, the one person he should have protected. Isabella didn't feel sorry for him. She felt nothing. He'd made his choice. Now he was living with the consequences. Her daughter was safe. Her foundation was growing, and every day more women were learning that silence isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's the smartest weapon you have. What do you think? Could you have stayed that quiet for that long? Could you have played along while planning your escape? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, if it made you think about strength differently, hit that like button and subscribe, because we tell stories about people who refuse to stay victims, people who fight back, people who win. Not always with noise, not always with confrontation, but with patience, strategy, and perfect timing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next story.